What an incredible article. Kremlin says Canadian recognition of veteran from Nazi unit is outrageous. Like, what are we doing? Is this pro-Kremlin? Like, what's happening? Like, what's my takeaway here? Is my takeaway supposed to be, honestly, I guess we got to hand it to the Kremlin here? Like, is that what we're doing? Or is the takeaway, well, oh, if the Kremlin said it, then it must actually be bad? Politico. Nazi-linked veteran received ovation during Zelensky's Canada visit. Readers out of context. Yaroslav Hunka was not just linked to the Nazis. He was literally part of the German Nazi military serving as a Waffen-SS soldier. This group was declared a criminal organization by the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg in 1946. Anyway. So, this further proves your point about stopping this propaganda, that there's a good reason that Germany doesn't let the Nazi shit be spread around under the penalty of law. And even in Germany, you can't override through censorship. You cannot override the genuine reactionary interest that comes from the ground when the material conditions are worsening. Okay? And the perfect example of this is that the AfD is rising to prominence. Do you get it? The AfD is pro-Nazi. As pro-Nazi as you can be, while simultaneously not saying that you are actually a literal Nazi, because there are rules around that sort of thing. So, you know, it's just, the reason why I wanted to give you this background, however, is that because, like, this doesn't happen overnight. Like, this didn't sneak in. Okay? This did not actually randomly happen overnight. This has been a deliberate, not dissimilar to the Daughters of the Confederacy style, misinformation and whitewashing operation that's totally prescient, that took advantage of the anti-communist sentiment during the Cold War in Canada, in the immediate aftermath of World War II, that they took advantage of and were able to gain prominence, and were even able to utilize, as I showed you, the police. Like, they, in two separate instances, one, they investigated someone defacing a Nazi memorial as a fucking hate crime, which they dropped later, okay? And two, they literally charged a fucking progressive journalist with inciting vandalism when another one of the Nazi memorials that he wrote about was vandalized. And the vandalism wasn't even like a real vandalism. It was just simply telling you that at the top of the hour there's a 3-minute ad break. Okay? Anyway, I love when dumbass Canadian right-wingers are like, watching Justin Fidel squirm as he tries to justify his Canadian Parliament standing ovation in celebration of an actual Nazi is mouth-wateringly delicious. What's delicious is not being hit with the top-of-the-hour ad break. And the only way to avoid the top-of-the-hour ad break is by subscribing for $5 for free with the Twitch Prime. Connect your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account where you get one free Prime subscription a month. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. King Leopold Blato, thank you for the 20 gifted subs, allowing 20 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour.
Here. That this happened. The speaker has acknowledged his mistake and has apologized. But this is something that is deeply embarrassing to the Parliament of Canada and, by extension, to all Canadians.
I mean, no, it's not. It's not. If that was the case, then you would have taken down the Nazi monuments all over the place in fucking Canada, which they exist, very much so. And new ones are being built all the fucking time, too. Because if you don't fucking nip it in the bud, if you do not nip it in the bud, these guys, they're very ideologically motivated. They're very ideologically driven. They will do anything and everything they can to fucking defend Nazi principles. Okay? For non-Jewish Ukrainians, Stalin was a greater danger to their survival than Hitler. Keeping Stalin out was a matter of life and death for them. when Stalin wins, sure enough, he brutally murders Ukrainians. Stalin's crimes against humanity outnumber Hitler's. Yeah. There you go. You can say stuff like this without people going, dude, what the fuck are you saying right now? Okay? What the absolute fuck are you saying right now? Are you insane? You can only get away with this without people immediately going, what are you even fucking saying? Because of Red Scare propaganda. Like, this is nothing more than Holocaust revisionism at that point. Okay? And you will get sucked into it. Okay? If you don't really think about it and you hear it from all different avenues, you will 100% agree with it. Okay? That's why, while I regularly do say that, Stalin's leadership was fraught with controversy and plenty of awful things happened, plenty of things that should not have happened. Some deliberate cruelty, some miscalculations. Ultimately, the one thing that Stalin was very good at was, one, robbing banks in his early age. That was very cool. Okay, victimless crime. And two, killing Nazis. Like, that's it. These guys can't even do that. They can't even fucking, they have to be like, no, Stalin is worse than Hitler. And when you do that, when you say fucking psychotic shit like that, you are doing Holocaust revisionism. Okay? You're doing Holocaust revisionism. We're seeing Weimar era fascist conditions manifesting before our eyes, and it's scary to see people just ignoring, forgetting, / apologizing for Nazis. Yes. He also thinks firebombing Germany is just like the Holocaust. Wait, what? Canada lit hundreds of thousands of humans, children, mothers, civilians on fire in Dresden. Should every RCAF crew member serving in the Lancasters, like my grandfather, be brandished a war criminal? I think there's very few still alive. Should we prosecute pilots and navigators? That's crazy. If you think that this is a good fucking comparison, then first of all, the bombing of Dresden is relatively it's somewhat controversial. It's not as black and white in the same way as like fucking being a part of the SS is, okay? Now, I mean, even including people like Howard Zinn, who were directly a part of the U.S. Air Force at the time in World War II, like, this was his radicalizing moment, okay? Can you honestly say SS war crimes are worse than that? We burned them alive in an entire city? You can say that, okay? You can say that. Yes, you can say that. Thank you for asking that question, because even then, yes, if one could be controversial, okay, if one can be considered controversial in the midst of like an ongoing full-scale state-on-state war, the other is like directly taking up arms against your fucking neighbors and killing them. So yeah, no, that one is worse. Yeah. Like, what the fuck? In high school, I had a self-admitted socialist teacher who would just sit there disappointed as the other teacher in the room just spewed Red Scare propaganda, how she thinks Stalin was worse than Hitler. The double genocide theory, including insisting that the Holodomor was an intentional target of ethnic genocide rather than the gross mismanagement of planned economy, which all modern historical evidence heavily points to. Yeah. Listen. This conversation is by design, like is done originally with the intention of like of using Nazis simply as a talking point to just like really attack the major problem, which is communists. Okay, communism, communists, the USSR. That's it. And people on the Nazi side do it specifically to lighten the burden of the Nazis and their violence, okay, and their ethnic cleansing initiatives. So that's number one. And then people on the liberal side do it as well because they're more focused on the enemy in front of them, one that is not at any point their ally whatsoever, which is communists.
I think particularly of Jewish MPs and all members of the Jewish community across the country who are celebrating or commemorating Yom Kippur today. I think it's going to be really important that all of us push back against Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation.
Bitch, why did you push into Russian propaganda then? You literally did that. The number one propaganda from Pootie Poo is like, oh, we're denazifying Ukraine. We're denazifying Ukraine. And then you went and you fucking put a Nazi in the parliament. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? You're the one who gave them the dub. You can't act like this is something that they're going to, like, it's just so stupid. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in hot water after latest Halloween costume appears to be Azov battalion outfit. Tweeted on October 31st, 2021. Okay, listen. Why do liberals not want communism? What do you mean? What? Of course liberals don't want communism. What? Liberalism revolves around the defense of private property. Communism is, in its most reductive terms, or socialism in its most reductive terms, is the evisceration of private ownership over property. That, so yeah, liberalism is always going to be at odds with socialism. How do we counter the fact that Hitler and Stalin had a pact agreement over Poland? This is a common thing liberals use against commies when we say cut a liberal and a fascist bleeds. Yeah, ask them what happened after. Like, that's it. Okay? At a time during appeasement, there was plenty of back and forth between Stalin and the German administration at the time. And the original intention was to literally fucking immediately ask for support over the British and the Western world, which they routinely ignored in the appeasement era. So, people were fucking cutting deals left and right until it was impossible to continue cutting deals. This does not mean it's a good thing, but if you want to understand the situation, people always do the conservative chud fucking the Republican Party fought the Confederacy shit when it comes to this pact. Stalin was bad with his ethnic displacement policies and had redeeming qualities, but Hitler was so much worse with the literal fucking Holocaust and no redeeming qualities. There's a difference. Like, Stalin had qualities that you could, if you were to hyper focus on like the individual aspects of his leadership, he had qualities of like being despotic and oftentimes flying off the fucking handle, doing a bunch of things that ruined ruined this USSR project. Okay, but it stays at that. The purposeful, willing evisceration, like the ethnic cleansing, had no, like that was not the Soviet project at all. In the same way that it was in the same deliberate way that it was the Nazi project. The Munich Agreement was an agreement concluded at Munich on the 30th of September 1938 by Nazi Germany, the United Kingdom, French Republic, and Fascist Italy. The agreement provided the German annexation part of Czechoslovakia called the Sudetenland, where more than 3 million people, mainly ethnic Germans, lived. The pact also was known in some areas as the Munich Betrayal, because the previous 1924 allegiance agreement and the 1925 military pact between France and the Czechoslovak Republic. The USSR only did the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact because the West rejected the USSR's attempt to form a pact against Nazi Germany. They knew that they needed more time to prepare for the war they knew was coming. One really interesting thing about this, by the way, is that people always like Sudetenland. Sorry. People, whenever I talk about like Crimea or whatever, people are like, remember when Hassan defended the Nazis? And it's like, brother, there is no defense of the Nazis, okay? I am expressly anti-Nazi. The difference is that the Munich Agreement, not according to me, but according to fucking at least Western historians that cover the matter, is seen as an afterthought in comparison to what the fucking Nazis did. On a long list of like what makes Nazis very bad is not like overtaking ethnic German land with the permission, with the express permission of Western powers. Okay, like it's not even in the fucking top 10. I feel like in a normal circumstance that would be considered, you know, like yelling about it as though this is like the major point of contention. That's the worst thing that they did would be literally like Holocaust revisionism. But of course, that's not where we're here. Anyway. Well, yeah, here we are.
And continue our steadfast and unequivocal support for Ukraine as we did last week with announcing further measures to stand with Ukraine in Russia's illegal war against it. Upsetting that this happened.
We already covered the liberals like running defense for this or trying to be like, actually, but here's the news story around it.
To dive into this latest political fiasco, Mackenzie Ray joins us from Ottawa. Mackenzie, we appreciate this. So let's go back a moment. How did this happen and what has been the reaction so far?
Yeah, what a shocking story. The House of Commons Speaker, Anthony Rota, was the one who...
Not a shocking story. Only shocking that people are actually getting mad about it because it got to a point where like it was unavoidable, okay? That's it. What's shocking to me is that they haven't hit this, this is actually the Kremlin propaganda that's like making this a bigger issue. I'm surprised that they didn't immediately run that counter because it's so objectively a fuck up by every metric.
Who invited Yaroslav Hunka, who is a former Ukrainian veteran who fought in a Nazi brigade back in World War II. And Mr. Rota not only invited him, but kind of gave him some praise. Here's what he had to say in his speech in the House of Commons with Mr. Zelensky, the Prime Minister, and all the other MPs in attendance.
We have here in the chamber today Ukrainian Canadian world veteran from the Second World War who fought the Ukrainian independence against the Russians and continues to support the troops today, even at his age of 98.
Now, Mr. Rota's office says that he did not know the Nazi-linked past of Mr. Hunka when he was invited. He put out a statement saying, "No one, including my fellow parliamentarians and the Ukraine delegation, was aware of my intentions or of my remarks before I delivered them. I accept full responsibility for my actions." I asked Mr. Rota's office what accepting full responsibility means, if he's going to be resigning as Speaker. No word on that.
Again, if you were exercising a little bit of critical thinking and you weren't so fucking horny to be like anti-USSR, anti-communist, anti-fucking socialist, okay? If you weren't that, if you didn't operate under that assumption, you would literally fucking hear the words, fought for Ukrainian independence during World War II against Russia, and immediately go, oh my God, that's a Nazi. Because that's what many people did. And it's especially psychotic because, like, there are plenty of Ukrainian veterans that were not pro-Nazi or sided with the Nazis and instead sometimes died fighting against the Nazis or survived fighting against the Nazis. It's the same fucking energy as constantly putting up dudes with like swastika tattoos as like the only people defending Ukraine. Like, what the fuck? There's plenty of goddamn motherfuckers out there who don't have swastika tattoos. Just put the camera on those motherfuckers. What are you doing? Are you by design trying to make it seem like the only people defending Ukraine right now are Nazis? What the fuck's going on?
That the Prime Minister's office also said that he and his staff did not know that Mr. Hunka was going to be in attendance, nor did they know about his past associations with the Nazi Brigade back in World War II. A statement from his office saying no advance notice was provided to the Prime Minister's office nor the Ukraine delegation about the invitation or the recognition. The Speaker had his own allotment of guest seating, which were determined by the Speaker and his office alone. That is not unusual to have these. Speaker having his own gallery. I was in the gallery during the speech, and there were a number of individuals there, but obviously very embarrassing for the Speaker, the Prime Minister, and for Mr. Zelensky as well. We've heard from a number of Jewish groups, all outraged by the fact that Mr. Hunka was in the gallery and cheered by many parliamentarians. Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, says that there's
I'm not gonna lie, if there wasn't this big of a hubbub over it, if there wasn't this much like chaos and commotion over it, they would have just like treated this as any other day, okay? Why should they change course? When, like, as I've shown you over and over again, throughout the first fucking 2 hours of this broadcast, that like this is not anything new.
Absolutely no way that the Prime Minister did not know about this, saying that protocol officials from either Global Affairs or the Privy Council office would have known about this. Jagmeet Singh, the governing partner for the Liberals, says he'll be bringing it up with the government, and I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more reaction about this when the House of Commons starts back up today at 11 a.m.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, the news obviously shocking to so many people. You mentioned briefly about him, Yaroslav Hunka.
Russia's devastation and their immense sacrifices in World War II are why I, as a German, live in a free country today. That doesn't mean they're doing the right of why they do it. Yeah, no one is saying that either, by the way. Like, I hope that everybody fucking understands that. I am not in any way saying that, like, what Russia is doing today is correct or good. Okay? But I am entirely confident in my statement that that I repeat regularly, that Nazis were fucking bad, okay? Brave take, Hassan. I know. Nazis were bad, and especially during World War II, the USSR were the good guys, okay? They were the fucking good guys.
But what more do we know about him?
Yeah, he's a 98-year-old man who lives in North Bay, which is the riding that Anthony Rota, the Speaker, represents. So that in part is why he was invited to come and speak here. And he has, I think, a checkered past is certainly one way to put it. In his remarks, Mr. Rota said that he fought against the Russians. Well, he was a part of the 1st Ukrainian Division, which is also known as the 14th Division of the Waffen-SS, which was a Nazi division. And how do we know that Mr. Hunka was a part of that? Well, he's posted about it extensively on the internet. He put a number of...
This story is so funny, dude. Fuck! How do we know about it? Well, he was the one guy who's 88 years old who was writing a blog, as a matter of fact. The one guy at the age of 98 was writing a fucking blog, dude. He was 88 at the time when he was posting on a fucking blog. As every day passes, the more I can't believe the U.S. joined the Allied powers in World War II. Dude, I joke about this, but like, if things were like 3% different, that would have not happened, okay? 3 or 4% difference, and that doesn't happen. Like, even if Pearl Harbor somehow is intercepted, that doesn't happen, and the U.S. joins the war on the German side, okay? There's a lot of things that, like, worked at that time in the perfect direction for the United States to join on the side of the Allies. But we kind of take it for granted. And even then, even at that time, they were still very much like anti-communist, anti-socialist, anti-USSR. There were plenty of elements in American governance that was openly and expressly anti-Soviet, anti-USSR.